Chapter 3. Avery regretted not having worn a jacket. With her long black hair dancing in the breeze as she walked, she donned a pair of pink tennis shoes, blue jeans, and a yellow cardigan. Despite the slight chill, the sun felt wonderful on her chocolate-toned face as she made the final stretch of her 10-block trek to school. She'd almost forgotten how good it felt to be outside. 4 weeks in the hospital had felt like 6 months, and Avery was ready to get back to some normalcy. But then again, normal had recently begun to take on a whole new meaning. New Hope East was 1 block away now. As she approached, the calm and freedom she felt during her first walk outside since her accident was beginning to dissipate. Just what awaited her behind those white brick walls? If nothing else, there was ceramics. How she'd missed it. Taking one of the less busy entrances, Avery pulled open the heavy door and passed a few hundred turquoise lockers before reaching number 1136. Setting her backpack on the floor, she wondered if she'd even be able to remember her combination after all this time. Attempting to turn the dial, Avery was perplexed to discover it wouldn't budge. She gave it another exerted effort, using both hands this time, but it was in vain. "Great," she blurted. Rolling her dark brown eyes in frustration, she retrieved her white canvas backpack and began for the main office. Commencing her descent down the main stairwell, Avery observed a group of girls on the landing a few meters in front of her. Talking quietly amongst themselves, they were glancing in her direction. When she was a few steps past them, she heard the unmistakable word, "slut." She was taken back for a second as she continued down the remaining stairs, but tried to convince herself they were referring to someone else. She would soon be passing through the commons area, which was buzzing with activity. Groups of guys and girls stood around chatting, many holding their morning coffee, waiting for the first bell to ring. Navigating her way through the crowds, Avery discerned a notable reduction in the volume of conversation as she passed by. Many were looking at her with smirks on their faces, while others appeared embarrassed and looked away. Okay, this is weird, Avery thought to herself. Now at the main office, she timidly opened the door and entered. "Good morning," squeaked the elderly female office secretary, keeping her eyes on the computer as she typed. "How can I help you?" Avery briefly looked behind her to make certain the woman was actually speaking to her. "Yes," Avery began. "My locker dial is stuck. I was wondering if a custodian could come by and help me get it open." "Why is it stuck?" the gray-haired woman insisted. She peered at Avery over the top of her reading glasses, apparently anticipating a well-detailed explanation. "I don't know," Avery said, trying not to look annoyed. "I've been gone for a month. Today's my first day back, and my locker dial won't turn. Can someone please help me?" "A month?" the woman leered. "Sounds like it probably rusted shut. I'll see if I can get Dave on the radio." After verifying for the secretary it was actually her locker she was trying to access, Avery was accompanied by a burly, round gentleman in his 50s back upstairs to number 1136. "I really appreciate you taking the time to help me," Avery said as they walked up the stairs. "No problem," he growled. "I needed a break from cleaning that nasty boy's bathroom anyway." Pulling out a flashlight that seemed like a toothpick in his large, hairy hands, the custodian went down clumsily and scrutinized the dial. Using a pocket knife, he cut and dug at the stubborn adhesive, but without success. Some students in the proximity took notice of what he was doing and began to watch. "Looks like super glue," he huffed, blowing his nose on a hanky that he retrieved from his front pants pocket. "Blasted pranksters. We're probably going to have to replace it. I'll take care of it within the next hour. At least I can get you unlocked for now, though. Now thumbing through an enormous key ring, Dave found what he was looking for and inserted the small key into the lock, while giving the latch a firm pull. As he swung the door open, immediately a large collection of thin square packets poured from the bottom of Avery's locker and onto the beige laminate floor. Before he or Avery could discern what they were, Dave struggled down to start putting them back where they came from. Then it hit her. Her chocolate-toned skin flushed into a deep red. She opened her mouth to speak, but nothing came out. Some students passing by recognized the little packages instantly and began to laugh. "These are not mine," Avery asserted as she began grabbing fistfuls of condoms and walking them across the hall to the nearest garbage can. Some fell to the ground during the process, which were promptly picked up by eager hands of students walking by. "You just want me to throw these away, then?" the large custodian questioned loudly. His enormous hands were cupped and overflowing with the little square packages. "Yes," Avery replied, "and thanks for opening my locker. I can handle it from here." "What are you all looking at?" Avery barked at the gathering crowd as she plopped the rest of the mess into the garbage. "What a whore!" boomed a voice from the crowd. It was echoed by laughs and giggles. Seeing one more of the disturbing packages on the floor, Avery picked it up and noticed there was handwriting on it. In bold black capital letters it read, "Better luck next time." The crowd was now dispersing, as approximately 1 minute remained before the first class would begin. Placing her math and history books onto the top shelf of her locker, Avery saw his picture out of the corner of her eye. "Thanks a lot, Taylor," Avery said under her breath. Removing the photo from the inside of her locker door, she tore it into little pieces and tossed them into the garbage can. "Now I want you to approach this assignment in a very specific way," Mr. Murray explained as he paced around the room. He was certainly one of the more engaging English teachers at New Hope East. Always clean-shaven, with reddish-brown curly hair, he stood about 2 meters tall even with his slouch. Due to his pale skin and well-proportioned face, he looked much younger than he was. And that silly bow tie and suspenders look he insisted on. Avery couldn't help but smile every time she saw him. Indeed, for Avery, watching him lecture this morning was a welcome diversion to the nightmare she'd experienced thus far. "This anthology," Mr. Murray continued, "is about focusing on the journey of your lives rather than the destination." Now sitting on the edge of his desk, with chin in palm, he looked at Avery for a moment. "Ms. Renshaw, it's good to have you back." "Thank you," Avery replied. "The due date is in 2 months," he went on. "It will consist of 21 poems, each with a minimum of 50 words and with a max of 200. There are some key aspects I want you to incorporate in your writing. Each poem will have 3 versions, so to speak. First will be the way you interpret subject matter now, right here in this moment. Second, from the point of view of someone at the outside looking in. Third, of how you think you may interpret the subject matter 20 years from now." Groans of disapproval were heard throughout the class. Avery, on the other hand, pulled out a spiral notebook immediately and got to work. Mr. Murray was now pacing about the room again as he concluded his instructions. "Now, to assure you are given ample time to finish this, we will be dedicating the last 10 minutes of every class session to developing our poems." Taking a seat in the black swivel chair behind his desk, he started some new age instrumental music on his stereo. "Now begin." There was so much to say, so much she felt, so much she didn't want to feel. How could her life have taken such a turn? Why did the universe seem to single her out? Was she being punished for something? Was there something inherently wrong with her? The previous month's events were replaying constantly in her mind, her logic desperately trying to make sense of it all. But it was no use. All that remained was confusion, pain, and resentment. I don't deserve this. I don't deserve to be pregnant. How's it going over here? Mr. Murray asked, taking a seat in the desk next to Avery. I'm sorry, what? Avery mumbled as she looked up, her hand throbbing from writing so much so quickly. To her surprise, the room was empty. That's what I love about writing, Mr. Murray commented as he looked at the clock on the wall. Everything around you just sort of disappears. Sorry about that, Avery began as she packed away her things. I didn't realize the bell rang. No need to apologize. Is there anything I can help you with? Honestly, Mr. Murray, Avery said as she stood up, I wish there was. All right, he smiled as he accompanied her to the door. He could sense she was on the verge of tears. Try to hang in there, okay? I will. See you tomorrow. History class was particularly difficult to endure that day. It was a boring discussion on the current reckoning of time, which was measured as years transpired since the fall of Rome, 1,536 years ago. Not only was the aged instructor's monotone voice savagely annoying to follow, but the conversation between the two girls a couple rows up made it nearly impossible. I heard the look on that girl's face was priceless, said a curly-haired brunette in a loud whisper. Avery was pretty sure her name was Carla. I wish I could have seen it, responded the short-haired blonde sitting next to her. Misty said she about died laughing. Whose locker was it? I'm not sure. It was up on the second floor, somewhere by language arts, I think. Who did it? It was a couple of guys on the basketball team. Do you know Jackson and Stu? Devin told me it was them. I guess it was the girlfriend. Well, ex-girlfriend of someone who graduated last year. That was pretty messed up, though, don't you think? Not really, though. Apparently this chick was totally sleeping around on him. How do you know? Stu and Jackson are friends with the guy. Devin said she had no clue who the baby's dad was. Seriously? I know, right? The girl's a complete slut. Wow. Well, maybe it's her boyfriend's baby. Nope. Devin said the paternity test was negative. Avery's stomach was practically in her mouth. Quietly excusing herself, she slipped into the hallway and darted for the bathroom. Ducking into one of the yellow stalls, she crouched down and began projecting her breakfast into the toilet. Taylor's face flashed through her mind with every heave. What am I going to do? The entire school knows about me. What she needed was to bawl her eyes out. Exiting the stall, Avery looked in the mirror for a moment and tried to compose herself. Taking a step back, she placed a hand on her stomach and stood sideways. Scrutinizing her reflection, she determined she had begun to show a little, but it wasn't yet obvious. Was it? Maybe it was. Or maybe, just maybe, she would wake up. Wake up and realize it had all just been a bad dream. East High's lunchroom began to hum with activity as the first wave of noisy students began pouring in. Sitting at her and Marnie's usual table along the far wall, Avery reluctantly opened her lunch bag, removing a banana and a bag of potato chips. Food did not sound good right now. Pulling out her pink cell phone, she noticed her mom had sent a few text messages. How are things going? Are you feeling the morning sickness today? Love you. While thumbing in a response to her mother, Avery noticed Marnie taking a seat with her lunch tray on the opposite side of the room. Of course, she couldn't really read into it. After all, she hadn't been to school in over a month. Taking her food with her, Avery carefully traversed the bustling cafeteria and took a seat directly across from Marnie. "Hey, stranger," Marnie said as she pulled her curly blonde hair into a ponytail. "I love your shirt," Avery commented. "Isn't it cute? Bert got it for me for my birthday." Marnie pushed her black framed glasses to the top of her pointy nose and began smearing butter on a roll. "Oh crap, Marnie," Avery sighed in dismay. "I totally forgot about your birthday. I'm so sorry." "Seriously?" Marnie began as she took a bite of her whole wheat roll. "Don't even worry about it. You've had enough on your plate these days." "Thanks for visiting me in the hospital." Avery opened her bag of chips and popped one in her mouth. It got a little lonely in there. "I can imagine." Marnie picked up her turkey sandwich and took a massive bite. "I see you're done with the whole vegan thing." "Yep," Marnie affirmed as she set down her sandwich. "I knew it wouldn't be a good match with track and everything. Coach Hansen said I was crazy, but Burke wanted me to try it out. His snobby vegan club gives him crap for dating a carnivore, but they can just kiss it." "You're funny." Avery grabbed a couple more chips and began to peel her banana. "So when were you planning on telling me?" Marnie took another bite of her sandwich and dabbed a napkin to the corners of her mouth. Avery's eyes widened at Marnie's question, who glared expectantly in return. "Is it true?" Marnie insisted, her dark green eyes fixed on Avery's. "I guess I'm still in a bit of denial. The whole school is talking about it." "Oh, really? Why don't you tell me about it?" Avery's tone had shifted from calm to cynical. "I don't get you, Avery," Marnie said as she flicked a piece of lettuce off her white shirt sleeve. "We've been friends for like 2 years, and you can't even tell me what's going on? That's a little messed up, don't you think?" Avery looked away for a moment in silence. The incessant babble in the room was now beginning to make her feel claustrophobic. "Don't judge me," Avery said as she resumed eye contact with Marnie. "I'm not judging you." "Do you have any idea what this is like?" "Not really, no." Marnie opened her can of cola and took a few swallows. "I guess I'm just a little surprised, that's all." "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing." "What are you so surprised about? Do tell. I would love to know." "I guess I was just under the impression that one of my good friends would clue me in on the fact that she was getting so much action. You've always acted like such a prude." "What?" "Well, you have. According to you, you didn't even kiss Taylor until like the 10th date, I swear. And then just out of the blue, you get yourself knocked up and you don't even know whose kid it is." "You know, you're one to talk." "You know who I've been with. It's not some big secret. The least you could do is talk to me. But apparently that's too hard for you." "What do you expect me to say to that?" "Nothing, Avery. I guess I shouldn't expect you to let me know anything that's going on in your life. Enjoy your banana." Leaving her tray, Marnie grabbed her sandwich and walked toward the exit. As she watched her friend go, Avery pushed her food aside and dropped her face into her hands.